What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Del on Movies, and we are still marching towards that point at the end of the year where I'm trying to release my top 25 movies since the year 2000. We're going year by year, so it's going to make it easier for me to make that final list. We're going year by year with my top 10, and we are up to the year 2004. And for this year, we've got a lot of good stuff here, so let's just go ahead and hop right into the stack. And we're going to start with some superhero stuff at number 10. We have going back into this trilogy, we're going back to Spider-Man 2. And this one is my favorite of the Sam Raimi trilogy, one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, period. And just so you can see it on the back, we're talking about number 2. Um, One of my favorites in all of the Spider-Man films, and definitely my favorite of the Raimi trilogy, as I said. Uh, yes, it ranks lower in its year than Spider-Man ranked in that year. And the reason is because honestly, I believe that 2004 might be a little bit stronger of a year. But as far as Spider-Man 2 goes, the what gets it for me is how human Peter is growing into adulthood, right? He's not a high school kid anymore. He's not just uh, going through the metaphor for puberty that becoming Spider-Man is. He's already that, but not fully, right? He's still dealing with some of those things, and he's dealing with, like I said, becoming an adult. And he's got the relationship with Mary Jane that he's trying to manage, or he's mismanaging, and he's trying to juggle college and uh work and having his own apartment. He's trying to juggle all of these things, and they have their adverse effect on him, which is a sticking point for a lot of people. Either you love it because of that or you hate it because of that. And yeah, we're talking about the powers thing, the things he goes through with his powers. I love it because of that, because again, carrying through with the metaphor of his powers being part of his growth. We go through adverse things as we become adults, and that's what happens to Peter in this movie. And we also get a wonderful term from Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus, aka Doc Ock. And we get him becoming unhinged. And it always helps that there's a personal connection between Spider-Man and the villain, and that's what we get here. And all of those things really culminates in one of the greatest Spider-Man scenes. We get the train scene, the elevated train scene where he is trying to save a train from flying off the tracks, and how New York is also there for him. So all of those things make it one of my favorites, and gets my number 10 for 2004. Number 9 is a movie that is different from Spider-Man, and that is a much artsier film, a much more mature film in a lot of ways, and that is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. If you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, there might be even a chance that you've never heard of it. It's Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet. They play a couple, or they were a couple. As we meet them, Kate Winslet's character, I believe her name was Clementine, she has decided to undergo a procedure which erases your memories, at least selected memories. And in this case, she has all of her memories erased of Joel. I think his name is Joel, and that's Jim Carrey's character. They were a couple. They were in a relationship. It's over, and she decided, you know what, let's just wipe all memory of him. So this is a bit of a science fiction movie in that regard. And Joel, Jim Carrey's character, he decides, you know what, I'm going to do that also. And he starts to undergo the procedure. So the movie is basically him recounting his memories as he's losing them or as he's getting ready to lose them. And we got some technicians in there with him, and there's some shadiness on their part that has a major effect on the story as it goes along. And what we find out, or what we get to in the end, is a pretty unique love story, at least uniquely told. And I love it for that. On top of that, the cinematography is just great. This is just a fantastic looking film from start to finish. Jim Carrey gives one of his best performances. I don't know if I would say it is his very best, but it is right up there near the top. I mean, Man in the Moon probably his best. Then you got this movie. Then you got The Truman Show. So he's got some great performances, and this is right up there with the rest. Kate Winslet, Oscar-winning actress from Titanic, but that I think is not at all one of her best performances. This one might be. This one again is so. If you haven't seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Line, and I know this is my famous thing, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But yes, definitely check it out. It gets my number 9, takes us into number 8, and we're going in a different direction yet again. This time we're going in the biopic direction, and we're getting Ray, starring Jamie Foxx. The thing about Ray is that from a story standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, it's not a lot different from other biopics. I mean, we get the traumatic upbringing with lots of things that went wrong. And in Ray's case, of course, we're talking about Ray Charles. So in Ray's case, we're talking about becoming blind, going through that, and then living life that way, and of course, becoming a world famous musician and dealing with the things that world famous musicians deal with, namely, at least in his case, namely women and drugs. So those are the two big things that he has to deal with. And what sets Ray apart is how well this movie does that. It does a fantastic job of it. And Jamie Foxx himself is fabulous as Ray Charles. He gives us everything you think Ray Charles is. And that also helps to elevate this film. I will say one drawback is that even though Jamie Foxx himself is a really good singer, he does not sing the songs in the movie. He lip syncs, but he does an excellent job at that. Is that the filmmakers, they really wanted it to sound like Ray Charles. They wanted it to be Ray Charles. So he lip synced to Ray Charles's music and did a great job at it. He won an Oscar for playing the role, and I think it was well deserved. So that is why that movie gets to be my number 8 for 2004. That brings me to number 7. Number 7 is another one of those movies that a lot of people have not heard of. This is a foreign language movie, and I make note of these. I I know it feels like to some maybe I'm just bragging at how many foreign language movies I have on my list. I'm really just doing it for my own sake because I want to remind myself that yes, I gotta I want to be well rounded as a film watcher. So it's not necessarily that I have these so many foreign language movies and I'm telling you how great I am for that. Is that yeah, you know what? If I have 2, 3 in my top 10, I probably had a pretty good year as far as watching movies from around the world. If I did not, if I have less than that, I probably need to go back and watch more. So it's really for my benefit, not yours. But that being said, this is the first of two movies in the top 10 that are non-English. This one is called Maria Full of Grace. Maria Full of Grace is it's a heartbreaking story, and in this one we meet Maria, and she's like early adulthood, so she's like 19, 20 years old. I can't remember exactly. She might even be younger than that, but she lives in Colombia. She's Colombian, and her family is having trouble making ends meet. They're struggling. So she works, and the money that she makes, it helps out a little, but it doesn't like make a real difference. So she wants to make a real difference. So she uh, through some channels, some back channels. She meets some guys who are drug dealers, um, and she decides to be a mule for them smuggling drugs into New York. And to do that, she is going to have to swallow packets of these drugs, and of course, excrete them later. Um, it's a harrowing tale, to say the least, and we get to watch her go through all of that. And not only her, but there's other girls who've made the same decision, who decide to do the same, they decide to do the same thing, and it doesn't always work out as planned for everybody involved. And we get to watch that story. It is a tough, tough, tough watch, but it is an excellent watch. So Maria Full of Grace gets my number 7. That brings me to my number six. And number six is another heartbreaking story, but in English and about sports. And this one is Million Dollar Baby. One of Clint Eastwood's films is an excellent boxing film. Hilary Swank plays the Million Dollar Baby, so to speak. I forget her character's name. Um, but she wants to be trained as a boxer. Uh, it's a little off at the beginning. I will say this because when we meet Hilary Swank, she's already fighting on a card on a big card, so minus points for that because she's already a boxer clearly. But she wants to be trained by Clint Eastwood's character, who has trained some champions and has got an up and comer, in his stable as it is. Morgan Freeman is his right hand man. Between the three of them, they form a great relationship. Anthony Mackie is that up and coming boxer that we were talking about. And Clint Eastwood at first he says that, you know what, I don't train female boxers, I don't train women, so I'm not going to deal with you at all. Of course, she's relentless and gets him to train her, and then they form a bond, and things go from there. If you've seen it, you know the twists and turns of it. She's got a lot of family things that she has to deal with. She's got of course, Clint Eastwood plays a Clint Eastwood role. He's an old curmudgeon, and Morgan Freeman is there kind of as a bridge between the two. And of course, he's always the wise old sage in all of this, and he gets an excellent scene uh, mid movie. I want to say late mid movie between him, Swank, and Anthony Mackie. And yeah, this one, I believe this one Swank's first Academy Award. She won them back to back, if I'm not mistaken, and she was really, really, really good here. So that is why Million Dollar Baby is on my list at number six. At number five, we're switching role gears completely, and none of this heartbreaking stuff, right? We want some fun, so that is why we are moving to Shaun of the Dead. This one is probably the first zom-com I ever saw, a zombie comedy, and still probably the best zom-com I've ever seen, one of the best. And in this case, we get Sean is played by Simon Pegg here, and it is a zombie apocalypse, an outbreak. And so he and his friends, they're all trapped in this one room. They're trapped in this house. They're trying to figure out how to survive. Want to go rescue mom. And of course, figure out, like I said, how to survive this. So they're running around town, going from place to place. Eventually, they end up in a pub, but that's not really spoiling things too much. It's just telling you where the action is really going to jump off, but it's action all the way through. So we get lots of zombie stuff, lots of gore, but it's all played for laughs and it's all hilarious. One of my very favorite zombie movies of all time, and number five for 2004. And that brings me to number four, also a very fun movie, but for a different reason. This one is fun in that we get to see some revenge happening. And I'm talking about Kill Bill Volume 2. And in this one, uh, she's continuing her revenge. As I said, part one or volume one, it left off without her getting it completely. She got a few characters that she knocked off, and now she's going after the big guy. She's actually going after Bill. So she's got a few obstacles in between there, right? We've got Daryl Hannah's character, we got Michael Madsen's character, rest in peace to him. He recently passed. Those are the two big obstacles, and then we also go on the journey of her and Pai Mei, um, and see how she got those skills. Same thing with Daryl Hannah's character, and we get a little bit of Bill's character in there. And yeah, there was a big revelation at the end of part one that pays off in part two. And this is the more subtle, this is the more reined in version of more reined in version between the two, between volume one and volume two. And it's got more to say. And so, one day I like volume one better, another day I like volume two better. Bottom line is they're both fantastic. The whole bloody affair. I've honestly never watched the two movies together as they've been put and called the whole bloody affair. But I've seen volume one, and every time I watch volume one, it's like, okay, I gotta watch volume two right now. And that's what happens because they're just both great. And Uma Thurman, between the two of them, this is just basically uh, her finest hour as a performer. And like I said with Volume One, though, I understand that it cost her a great deal physically, and it cost her in her relationship with Tarantino. I mean, they weren't a couple, but they working together soured her on him, and for good reason. I mean, he did some heinous things while directing this movie, and you can go look that up. But the result was amazing. So Kill Bill Volume 2 gets my number 4. And I keep looking over at this stat, guys. I'm sorry, but my number 3 movie is right here. And this movie, we're going back into the superhero. We're getting some animated action happening, also family affair. We're talking about The Incredibles. And this is, before I get into it, guys, this is a one of my favorite steel books. We get The Incredibles. We get the I guess is debossing going on here for all these characters in the movie. But of course, the movie itself is what matters. Oh, by the way, one thing for the Steelbook, by the way, though, if you have one and you're willing to get rid of it, I'm not willing to get rid of mine. It's going for quite a penny, quite a pretty penny on eBay these days. A lot more than the 30 bucks that I paid for. I don't even know if I paid that much for it. But as for the movie, it's a time when superheroes have been outlawed because, property damage, one, and all kinds of other things that are happening. Um, so our family, the Incredibles, led by Mr. Incredible, they've taken up a normal life. They've kind of gone into witness protection, as all the superheroes have, and they've decided that they're gonna live a normal life. He sells insurance. I believe he sells insurance. Um, car insurance or health insurance. I can't. I think it's health insurance. Mrs. Incredible or Miss Incredible, Elastigirl. I forget what her job. I know. I think she's a stay-at-home mom. Of course, we have the two kids who are in school, and Mr. Incredible. He has that itch. He just wants to. He still wants to be a hero. Wants to help people, and other than sitting behind the desk trying to approve or deny claims, health insurance claims. So he, with the help of his friend Frozone, Samuel L. Jackson, shout out to him. Um, they go out every now and again and fight some crime. And they kind of get busted on that front, and they get pulled back into a major operation, and eventually the whole family has to get involved. I'm not going to explain why. For me, The Incredibles is incredible. It is my very favorite movie. I call it the best Fantastic Four movie ever made, even though technically it's not the Fantastic Four movie, but we got four main characters and a family, all with superpowers, very similar to the Fantastic Four, actually. And they are and we get a great movie out of it. The Fantastic Four movie that Marvel just did a few months ago is excellent, is a really good movie, but it's still not as good as The Incredibles. And I think that justifies Incredibles as my number 3 movie. That moves us on to number 2. Number 2, guys, is that other foreign language movie that I mentioned before, and it's also a martial arts movie, and it's also a comedy. It is just a hilarious movie. This year, if you haven't noticed, if you haven't been paying attention, is really a comedy heavy year, really a comedy heavy year. And in this case, we are talking about Kung Fu Hustle. In this movie, we meet a guy who's this guy right here in the middle. He's a bumbling kind of character, nobody, and he lives in this town that's rough and tumble. I guess a shanty town is the best way to put it. No, it's not really a shanty town, but it's definitely really low income, kind of a ghetto kind of place. This is a Chinese movie, so they're in China. Stephen Chow directed it. The landlords kind of rule over this place with an iron fist, and we got the Axe Gang. They're out here terrorizing people, and they come to town looking for some people that did them wrong, and they have to deal with the landlords and the townspeople. It's just a hilarious movie because the story, while good, is not what matters. What matters here is the journey through the story, how we go from place to place to place, and we get mysticism, we get Looney Tunes, we get slapstick, we get action, we just get all sorts of things and all sorts of crazy, colorful characters, and every one of them is great. And the story with this movie, as far as me and my family goes, is I watched it one year. Of course, again, this is that blockbuster time. I'm renting 5 movies every week, and I rent it and watch it by myself, and hilarious, have a ball, cracking up, laughing. I want to say it's Thanksgiving. It might have been Christmas time, but I think it was Thanksgiving time rolls around, and we're at my place, and we had watched the movie already, and some people were in one room talking, another people were in another room, watching a movie, and they watched one, and then they were okay with that, and I decided, you know what, let's put on Kung Fu Hustle. I got a lot of people who like action in here, and we like to laugh, so let's put it on. And I got very mixed results. Some people looked at this movie and was like, dude, Dell, what are you doing? What is this? This is crazy. And other people like, this is crazy, but in a good way. And of course, I love it, so it is my number two, Kung Fu Hustle. So I said all that to say that if you do watch this movie, if you've never seen this movie, it is a very odd duck. So take that into consideration. Also, an odd duck is my number one movie, and it's very polarizing, even more polarizing than Kung Fu Hustle. Either you love this movie and everything about this movie that's coming up, or you hate this movie and everything about this movie that's coming up. And I am talking about the one and only Napoleon Dynamite. And yeah, again, these videos are not really for showing things off, but every now and again, I get something that's kind of interesting. So if you can hear, what's going on here is this: we got these liger stripes is because of the liger in the movie, and you can see the liger right there. These stripes are kind of made out of suede, and of course we get the little portrait of Napoleon on the front. And yeah, Napoleon Dynamite is my type of humor, guys. I So many people I know just look at this, watch this movie, and tell me it's just stupid. I think it's genius, to be honest with you. And it warrants paying close attention to and seeing, and then you'll get the genius of it, at least from my vantage point. I think all the characters are great. The story is relatable. We get Napoleon's just a high school kid. He's a nerd, for lack of a better word. A nerd in the sense that he gets pushed around, shoved around by a lot of people in his school. He does meet a friend. He does meet Pedro, and there's also a girl, I forget the girl's name, but a girl that Pedro is interested in, and there's a girl that he's interested in, and of course there's also his big brother Chet, or is it Chip? But his big brother, who's like 30 years old, 31 years old, but he lives at home, and he's also mama's boy. Mom has kind of jetted off and went out of town and sent Uncle Rico to over to be in charge and look out for the boys. But Uncle Rico is a nut himself, and the humor is just so dry but definitely witty. And our guy here, it's just he gives a performance of a lifetime, and he's never approached anything like it. uh, the dancing near the end of the movie is icing on the cake. We get the relationships between his older brother and the woman he's met online. I'm going on and on and on about this movie. Bottom line is, I love this movie. It's one of my favorite comedies that's come out since 2000, obviously, because it's my number one movie of 2004. Let me know in the comments what you think of Napoleon Dynamite. What is your favorite movie of 2004? Your favorite? If you want to give me your top 10, great. If not, give me your top one, top two, top three. Or let me know what I missed. But before you click off the video, remember that honorable mentions are coming up next. So stick around for those right after I say thanks for hanging out with me. And if you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. Bye.